Should we get this thing going?
Yeah.
I am Arno trading as Anto today. Anto, I did learn yesterday that in fact Anto has taken his, I think it's his youngest son, I can't remember now.
Oliver, yes.
Yeah,
Oliver.
Oliver to Indonesia for 2 weeks, and they're going to go be in Jakarta, and he's going to have Oliver experience all sorts of Indonesian cooking. So it'll be an interesting father-son exercise he's on. So we wish him good luck. Apparently, he's still in the plane going somewhere at the moment. He's currently on the longest flight, which is the New York to Singapore flight. So currently at 19 hours, still flying.
Wow.
So with that, he's handed me the keys of the kingdom, which was a big mistake. So I will do our usual stuff. Let me do the share. Which one is it? I guess
Just so you know, the slide deck link on the website it just pops you back to the website right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it doesn't open the slides.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, there you go.
Does that come up?
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Mhm.
So we will. Sure.
Yeah, you just need to go to full screen.
Yeah.
Where is present? Let's see if this works. Presenter view. Still working? Cool.
It hasn't gone full screen, if that's what you're asking.
It's supposed to. Oh, you know what? Let me stop this. Sorry, newbie at the helm. Let's try this again.
You're doing great, Anno.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Cool.
Yeah, so far you just ran on the money here.
I want my money back.
Yeah.
That any better.
This is not what I paid for. Come on. Now you're good, buddy.
All right. Let's just, as Anto says, well, you guys can read as much as I can tell you what's here. You see the team that's on the chat at the moment. I'm going to go through, I think.
And all the opinions are our own, not
That's right.
are our own, not our companies and so forth and so on. And what else? That's it, I think, isn't it?
I think so. And
Okay.
the deck is going to be available, and we're going to
Yes.
record it and put it on LinkedIn as well, so you can see it there. The subject we're going for this month, of course, we're still talking about AI in buildings. I think we're going to take a little bit of a different twist today, where we're going to talk about other people using AI in different industries and see if that spurs some interesting cross-pollination between other applications. And we'll see how best we can do in avoiding open GPT or chat GPT, open AI and chat GPT as much as possible, which will be an interesting discussion. It says AI on the smarter stack. One thing I'll do is, I think one of the ones I do want to do from a bit of a summary of last week. If you were there or saw the recording, we introduced AI from a smarter stack perspective. From my, just from my perspective on that, I think one of the things it did for me was that if you looked at that smarter stack from all the way down at the lowest level, all the way up to the solutions level on the stack, what jumped out at me was there was the number of places that are AI and or machine learning could actually be applied, right from down to the lowest level on the edge of the VAV controller, all the way up to analytics and everything else in between. And one of my takeaways from that is that from a domain and industry perspective, there's a lot of opportunity of using AI machine learning in and throughout that stack, as opposed to if you're just a single device manufacturer. And I thought that was really interesting and compelling, especially trying to engage or attract new talent into the space, that there is a lot of opportunity of AI. It's not just in the one spot. It's not just analytics. It's not just analysis type approach, but it's also everything else that we do in the stack. So I just wanted to kind of summarize that. We didn't really get to summarize that from last week. And with that, Hand it over to Ken. Tell us what's going on.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so we are continuing your theme as well. AI is sort of everywhere, and all the articles rolling in are reflecting that. I've been struggling with my contributing editors. They're also busy on social media that I can't attract their attention to do some posts on our site. And they're doing some great posts on social media, especially LinkedIn, which I think is really the social media of choice for Monday Live folks and actually the industry. So I dug back into my archives, and back in 2020, we did a spoof on Mr. Linker, because that's Mr. Linker Sinclair. He basically, all I really end up doing is just linking to information. And what I have to do is increase my reach and get out into the social media, which I read on a daily basis. So I have it all up in my head anyway. And every once in a while I say, wow, that's a great post and I need it on my site. And so what I've done is I have basically reached out to, started out with Keith and said, would it be okay if we use some of your posts? Because he had some great posts. And we went ahead and he said, okay. So I moved them over and posted them as part of his contributing editor. So the extension flows out of automated buildings into LinkedIn and back again. And that was always our dream, I guess, when we started. We identified that what we were doing was running a library that basically depicted the context of the industry. And as a library, it had to be quiet, and the noise in the hall occurred on social media. And we basically applauded that. But what needs to happen is when that discussion becomes significant, just as it does at a conference, it eventually changes the industry. And I think we have to grab some of these social media posts that have turned into essays and have 20, 30 people involved in commenting on them. And we need to link to them. And so the library needs to link to the discussion, and we're able to pull out of that time hole. One big problem with social media is that it's all time orientated. So if you actually post and you happen to hit the day or the week, you get some pretty good views, and then the action goes on, and then it all kind of falls away. And then a month later, you want to recover that, and it's just about impossible to try and find it. So that I'm hoping is that we can grab the results of some of those significant posts and get them back. And it seems the logical way for me to do that is to organize it through my contributing editors. Anyway, that was a long story, but that's what we've done. And the other thing is the news of the day. I wasn't aware that Tracy was going to make it because he's in Florida, but he's online here, so this is good. He can probably tell us more about this than I can. But this is exciting news, I think, because here we have two supporters of Monday Live going into a partnership in an AI environment. So this is what we're really talking about, and their news release does a great job of explaining what they're doing and how they're using it. And I would welcome Tracy to fill in the blanks. You want to do that now, Tracy? Maybe.
Yeah, indeed. Can you fill in some?
Sure.
Speak to today's
sure.
news.
Sure. Thanks, Ken. The big thing is kind of interesting thinking about all this, and in our comments in the press release, Keith and I both sort of mentioned the same thing. It was just such a logical teaming opportunity for us both, given what they do and what we've been doing for a long time. So we're really excited. We have a bunch of locations. You guys have heard me talk about restaurants, convenience store space in particular. All of those are RTU, thermostat controlled kinds of HVAC systems, right? So we had all of these, what we historically have called smart thermostat communicate. And now, and we've been collecting data from them forever across, all the different and thousands of sites. And now we're in the process of getting some of those connected using facilitized AI technology, right? So now the thermostats are getting really smart. We'll have to come up with a smarter thermostat, like smarter building or something maybe. But so in our case, initially, the primary target is sort of those locations with thermostats that are already connected onto our platform, right? So we provide a little bit of a front end to what Keith is doing. He's in his team have been focused on the AI aspect and not so much on the UI. So it was really just a logical partnership for us. So
Cool.
extremely happy to be working with him. Just got some smart guys and gals on his team. So looking forward to, validating and hopefully we'll have some ability to publish some of the results, even if we have to go a bit anonymized on some of it, but
Sure.
Yep.
But that's pretty exciting. And it's kind of all very germane and timely in our discussions of this particular space then.
yeah, and completely coincidental to all of that. This actually started as a conversation at the Smarter Summit
Oh, there you go.
right. And, we got together and we were just catching up on old times and talking, what are you up to? And then, he came by, we had a little demo in the Enocean booth and he came by and took a look and one thing led to another and it just made a lot of sense. So timing completely coincidental to this focus this month on AI.
Nice. Well done. Yeah. And Rick, I've just promoted you on, man. I just saw your note. There you go.
Sorry, I was late.
No worries.
Congratulations, Tracy.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yes.
Going to be great to see what you guys do with
I
that.
think we're having Keith on. He was already a targeted guest for next week, is it?
I believe so. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that'll be cool. Yeah, it'll actually be cool to actually talk a little bit more about the details of what you guys are working on. Excellent. I did mine was, I think most of us know the C3 guys out there, or I've seen C3 in the space over the years. They did a big announcement back in January, and actually their announcement was a couple of days ago, about a week ago, where they made an announcement of doing a GPT type model for all their applications and all their particular space. I didn't sit in. I think there was if you go to the website, there's a recording of their announcement. It was on March the 7th about what their capabilities are going to be as far as bringing a GPT type AI technology to their particular platform. Which I thought was interesting. I think it'd be worthwhile diving in a little bit to see what they're doing and how they're doing that. We've run across C3 multiple times. They're typically forefront of some of the newer technologies, and they're quick to adopt some of the newer technologies. So this is one that kind of jumped out at me as someone who's taking it to an enterprise level, which I haven't really heard of in the past, of folks who are taking the GPT type approach into the enterprise. I'm really not sure what the models are on how you support that or how you do that. So that's kind of interesting. And Mark, got some notes?
Yeah, so I got three things today. So the first one is, which I thought was a really interesting article, was the beginning of many of the, let's just call them big tech companies, are starting to sell some of their building assets and campuses because of what's been identified as a struggle in business. So for example, Intel is looking to sell roughly 505,000 square feet of buildings in and around their various campuses in Silicon Valley. And another one that was noted for a fairly large sale is Analog Devices, selling roughly, looking to sell a 320,000 square foot campus in Milpitas, which again, we're starting to see this. And I think, from our perspective, I think it's important that, we always got to keep an eye on it. And then Google has delayed apparently their new construction that they were doing in downtown San Jose somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where that was. So
I saw
that's
that
number
too.
one.
Yeah.
Number two, just a reminder to everybody, self-plug here about Haystack Connect. We have extended the early bird rate. Just go to the website. We are getting a lot of folks, a lot of sponsors already, a lot of folks attending. And I think this year, if you're still trying to make up your mind, we are broadening the content and what's going to be presented, not just on Haystack, but data and its role in certain areas of the smart building area. So something to keep in mind on. And then this last one, I'm kind of very honored and extremely happy to tell everybody this. So Harry Smink, if many of you probably know, has written a book. The book is entitled The Internet of Things for Smart Buildings, Leverage IoT for Smarter Insights for Buildings in the New and Built Environments. It is coming out on March 31st. And I was asked, and I'm honored to write the foreword for the book, which I did. And again, Harry, I see you're on. Thank you. At some point, maybe a future show, we can have a discussion about, why you wrote it, what's in it, etc. But look for it from Amazon. There's a link there. But again, it provides a really good, different overview of a way to look at the Internet of Things for smart building. And Harry's one of the brethren. He's one of us old timers, so to speak, elder statesmen. So thank you, Harry. And with that, I'm going to turn that back over to you, Anno.
Good job. $5 avoided. Out of interest is at Haystack Connect, are there any subjects tackling or talking about AI or machine learning at all that we know of?
Still working that out. If someone on our call today would love to be able to present that, reach out to me. Definitely, we are interested for sure.
Okay. And Scott, cool stuff.
Listen, good afternoon, everyone. I sidestepped the AI conversation a little bit with the information I wanted to bring up and talk about today, primarily revolving around AR and VR, so augmented reality and virtual reality, and how that's going to play a pivotal and important role for a lot of companies in this space, simply because of the need with so many people retiring. Again, the numbers I keep hearing, upwards of 45% of our in-field technicians and engineers in the field are potentially retiring over the next 3 to 5 years. And I'm seeing a big shift with the larger HVAC mechanical and controls contractors bringing things into a central NOC again and providing troubleshooting and having, in-field technicians that maybe are less experienced, that are out in the field, that are there to troubleshoot things, but they've got a senior technician that they can call back at the NOC and kind of walk through things. Granted, that's not really AR and VR, but some of the tool sets that are starting to come into the marketplace, as you can see in one of the pictures here, is hopefully going to augment and help some of those newer techs that are in the field to get those jobs accomplished. And there's a couple of articles related to augmented reality and virtual reality at the top of the page. So just wanted to tickle everyone's brain with that.
Yeah, thanks, Scott, for that. And in fact, Tim Vogel on the chat has just asked about the number. We we've seen similar numbers at my new location that I'm at now. Is that similar concerns that the retirement is going to go up significantly in the next 5 years. We've looked at it from a 5-year portfolio outward look as well. And we've seen similar numbers. So, yeah, if you want to share some stuff with Tim, he'll probably appreciate it. And it is actually, so from our perspective, it is one of the biggest salient points that people forget that, and this is where some of the areas of AI machine learning are, people are looking to use AI machine learning to how do you bridge that gap? And, you know, I know if we had Melissa on the show, you know, she'd talk about, you know, trying to hire new young folks into the space, which is a challenge as well. So it's not only the 45% plus that are going to retire. We're also struggling trying to replace them with new younger generation folks as well. And so this is a big area that I know we are looking at AI machine learning and how do you help replace those equations. So yeah, cool. And Rick, I still have the last slide from last week. I'm not sure if you want to do any update on that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, didn't get you a new one. We do have though a new announcement from C4SB that'll be hitting automated buildings later today. Monica is on, and I'm thinking that the sort of press release style announcement, just summarizing some of these same updates, will be hitting automated buildings later today and our website. Again, these key things are going to be listed in that announcement, along with a few others. We're officially, I think, calling it, instead of the under 40 group, it's going to be the Young Professionals for Smarter Buildings group.
Nice.
And you know, so stand by for more details on that. Watch Ken's site for a posting on that. And that's all I've got.
Cool. Anyone else want to share anything, updates, thoughts that they've seen during the week? Generally.
You know, one thing that's interesting, going all the way back to Mark's slide, Intel, just because I used to work there, so I have a little bit of a personal connection to it. It's interesting, they're selling off office space there, but they're spending billions of dollars in new construction in Arizona right now, right? And it's mostly fab related, but there is a significant amount of office space associated with it too. So I don't know if that's a Silicon Valley real estate problem, or, I mean, it's got to be an outgrowth of the pandemic and hybrid work models and so forth, but
I think it's been a perfect storm. It's all of that together, just coming together. And again, you know, both of those companies, unfortunately, have had layoffs as well. So obviously you don't need as much office space, you know, that's common sense. But you're right, as far as Intel building like crazy out in your area.
yeah.
We're involved there, and it's just amazing what they're doing and how fast track they're trying to make it too. So which is all good. So
Yeah, and it did talk to, I think one of the subjects I brought up last week too, right, is the repurposing of some of these office spaces, especially in the downtown areas, into residential or multi-use spaces, which is, you know, can be seen as another area of opportunity as well, right? Because as those things change out, the type of technologies that runs residential in the mixed use is different to what we used to put in for the commercial building type applications. So an interesting challenge and an opportunity at the same time. Okay, I think what we wanted to do is have a little just a sort of a discussion. And again, if anyone on the any of the guys on the anybody on the attendees list, if you've got an opinion and want to bring in an opinion onto the panel, I'm happy to bring you guys on as well, and happy to share the floor space to anybody who wants to put their hand up and have some thoughts. So we wanted to sort of just kick around AI machine learning type things outside of our space, right? What are other people doing with AI? And the spectrum is wide, right? I mean, you can go from the obvious stuff like Tesla and autonomous cars. The amount of AI technology and machine learning technology in a typical Tesla today is mind-boggling, what they can do with that. If you didn't see, Tesla is just announcing their full self-driving package. I think the beta is now just coming out of beta. And Tracy, I think you might have some.
I'm on the beta program actually, and it needed beta testing and work. Let me put it that way. It wasn't quite ready for prime time. You still have to pay pretty close attention, but I am thoroughly amazed at how well of a job it does, right? If you think about the task at hand in a live traffic situation like that, crazy. And they've been doing releases all throughout this whole beta program, and it absolutely is getting better and smarter with every release. So the process of taking that data in and learning and refining is working. So
yeah, I don't have the full self-drive. I'm not on the beta program for Tesla in mine, but I do have the unattended driving mode, which means on the freeway you can put it into, which to me is mind-blowing. You can put it into this autonomous mode running on the freeway at 70 miles per hour plus, happily taking care of. And weirdly enough, it's the amount of emails and text messages I can get to while I'm doing that, which freaks my wife out something terribly. She refuses to drive with me when I have it in that mode. She will sit in the back.
Why am I not surprised?
Why are you not surprised?
my wife is the same way, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm gonna, when I visit each of you in your respective cities, I'm gonna let everybody know I'm coming into town and stay the hell away from both of you as you are implementing this stuff, So here's a question. I missed last week and I apologize. So I've got two things here that sort of fits in this category. Again, whether it's buildings or non-buildings to our subject today. Would the industry, whether it's ours or just industries, be talking as much about AI today? And again, I'm a full supporter and all that. If it wasn't for ChatGPT, I believe that in and itself really refocused everybody, again, whether it's our industry or other industries, into the whole conversation heated up with respect to AI. Do you guys agree with that? That's question number one.
I think, let me give you a parallel to that, Mark, and my answer to that is yes, 100%. So the way I look at that is, and all of us here us old guys have been in this space for a long, long time. So all of us remember that, when we first were doing BAS and BMS systems, the guys, if you remember back then, the BAS systems way back when, we didn't really have, for example, the graphics we didn't have internet capabilities in the BAS systems that were connected to the buildings. But what we found was that the building operator would bring in his laptop, which had internet capabilities, and his own personal laptop, and he'd sit it next to his BAS stuff. And, and then finally that would drag us kicking and streaming into the internet age. And the same thing happened with mobile, right? We didn't really have a lot of mobile capability in systems. And so operators were bringing in their own personal phones and technologies, and that kind of pulled us into that space. Over the years, I've always found that the operators were bringing in technology into the facilities operations that they were bringing in from home well before we were bringing technological solutions into the BAS systems. And I think, in my mind, that's a long way to answer your question. I think the same thing is happening with what ChatGPT is doing. I think you'll find the couple of test points I did this week from a couple of our FMs, they're already using our FMs, my new players are already using ChatGPT to do some of their work today on work order systems, right? That I found really interesting and compelling, but they're all doing it using ChatGPT because we have a solution, right, for them.
I would add, Mark, that it's bringing it to the mainstream consciousness and awareness. And you think about even the term IoT, right? It's so funny because everybody treated this whole concept of IoT as this new amazing thing. And I think every face on the screen would say, we've been doing that for 20 years, right? It just, once it got out into the public though, it's a whole new thing. And the same is happening around this Chat GPT, I think. If you go, interesting exercise, go and Google, industries using AI, and then look at the responses, and you'll see how many articles are pre-Chat GPT. So it was being talked about and utilized and implemented in different ways for a long time, but I think this has brought this whole new level of understanding and awareness of the potential of what it has, right?
Yeah, I'd like to follow that up though by saying it's brought awareness to what we've been trying to do, but frankly, there's no way we were doing this 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Technology didn't exist. So what ChatGPT, I think, is doing is bringing awareness to the fact that technology now does exist to be able to do these kind of searches, to do this old school stuff much faster and with a better interface and with more, ease of use on common devices. I'm not sure it does us a lot of good. I mean, yeah, I was doing some pretty fancy math equations back 1985 too, but I certainly wasn't using the kind of technology that's available now. And that's what ChatGPT, they might actually be missing the story of the opportunity there, is that they're making it seem like it's brand new magic, but it's actually enabled by the fact that technology finally has gotten to a point where you can do it fast enough and do it easy enough for it to be useful. Because and how we apply it and how other industries apply it is a function of, we've now got these super fast edge devices, super fast communications channels, super fast and cheap chips, really good interfaces that everybody has. And that stuff just didn't exist up until, 6 months ago. That perfect storm.
Yeah.
So, all right, so I got this other question, and again, I want others too, but Tracy, I think you were spot on the way, as a marketing person, this could not have been, in my opinion, this whole ChatGPT bandwagon could not have been more fortuitous for AI as a whole. This was the thing. Anyway, the second thing is this. So I'm also kind of a Hollywood buff, TV show buff from a production side. And as I'm thinking about this whole AI, it reminded me of a movie, and show of hands, who remembers a movie called War Games? Had Matthew Broderick in it, where the computer was AI driven to set whatever, to create war game simulations with ballistic missiles, this, that, and the other, and so forth and so on. So it got me to thinking to this: what if AI in an instance goes crazy, goes bad, doesn't work, sort of goes off on its own? And again, am I thinking too much Hollywood? Who is responsible for this in these various industries, since we're kind of broadening this out? Is it a possibility? And if, as I said, if so, who owns that responsibility to don't let it get down to 1 second and, the building's going to explode or whatever. So I leave that to my colleagues and those on the call today.
So if I remember correctly, Mark, I think at the end of the movie, they forced it to play tic-tac-toe or noughts and crosses.
Yeah.
And they lost. Yeah, and he
And that's how it got
lost.
itself
Yes,
outside the
correct.
loop.
Correct.
So Tracy, if you ever get caught running full data on your Tesla and you're running down the freeway, play tic-tac-toe with your Tesla.
Yes. Save the day, right?
Save the day.
Yeah.
But you're right, Mark. I think it is. Sorry, I do want to circle back to the awareness thing. I think one of the about why ChatGPT has made everything more aware. AI machine learning has been around for a while, and we all, like we talked earlier. It goes back to even neural networks and stuff like that. But the general public's understanding of its capabilities beyond the few folks who got into a Tesla with beta, self-driving and went, wow, this is really awesome stuff. I get it. It's been hard for most of the public to really understand what AI or machine learning could actually do for them in the general sense, right? I mean, it was a subject that was, talked about at college levels and people would get into it, but to bring it down to earth as me as Joe Public, what did it mean to me, right? And I think one of the things that ChatGPT has changed that equation from an awareness of, oh, now I get what machine learning AI could possibly do for me. And I think that's, from my perspective, that was the game changer. In that most, if I asked my wife what was the impact on, of AI machine learning on her in the past, it'd be like 0. I don't even know how to spell it. But now she will actually use it to write her own school programs, because it can, right? Type of stuff. So it's brought the awareness up only because people now can actually make it relevant to themselves, right? Which we couldn't in the past. And I think that's a big deal.
The thing that concerns me from a commercial standpoint is none of the IP law around this has been figured out.
No.
It only knows what it learned over long periods of time of scraping and reading the world. And it's not really clear how any of that's going to shake out. So I see the technology as being hugely useful in many, many different endeavors. You talked about other things that are outside the scope of the business, bioinformatics, in terms of drug discovery and other things. I mean, it's just the sky's the limit. The question is, are you really allowed to use it? Or when you discover that next great drug, is somebody going to come out of the woodwork and say, well, that was in a paper that was illegally scraped. And, we were actually working on this over here. How does that get unwound?
I think you're onto something there, Jim, actually. We've been playing with another platform that's called copy.ai. And it's made primarily for marketers and people writing copy of various kinds, right? And it's interesting. I was playing around and I would put in varying amounts of primary information and see what the results are. And it came back, first of all, it came back with extremely well-written, versions of the stuff I was putting in. But then it would start to describe like what we do as a company, for instance. And some of it, while it sounded extremely professional, felt like they just grabbed that from somebody else's website and plopped it right into what they were saying, because the terms were very industry specific to this industry, right? So I started thinking about how did it figure that out? Where did it find that information? And then you start rolling in your head, are they gaining some of that knowledge from stuff that we've published? Are they, my phrase is appearing on somebody else's thing somewhere or whatever. In this kind of comes full circle to Mark's second question, which is, I think this is opening up a whole new field in the legal world when it comes to intellectual property and liability and all kinds of fun issues. I think the legal community is going to find to go after with this stuff.
Yeah. I think you guys, I saw an article today to that point about a drug for liver cancer treatment, that using a product called pharma.ai, and it claims to developed a treatment in just 30 days, and it can predict a patient's survival rate.
Wow.
And okay, and so this was a collaboration between University of Toronto and this company called In Silico Medicine, using this discovery platform called pharma.ai. So great, they did all that. Who owns the intellectual property? How do you prove it that you didn't get it from somewhere else? When I was reading in the details, for example, on the prediction of the survival rate, it was scanning doctors' notes going back in time with patients and seeing how those notes correlated to particular types of treatments.
And what
Which
about
is-
what about patient privacy or
Yeah, right. And
healthcare thing, whatever?
all kinds of things. But
Yeah.
but to your point, AI is going to be used everywhere, or there's going to be an attempt to use it just about everywhere. And Jim, you brought up the bioinformatics is here it is. It's happening real time just now, announced today in the press. I literally read it over lunch. Fascinating that here it's showing up. But the pressure's on us as an industry to start using AI probably at a faster rate than we've moved to cloud computing. So cloud computing has been out for a while, and we've been dragging our feet getting out of on-prem and trying to go to the cloud, and we're still struggling with it, right? But I don't think we're going to have the same choice here with AI. I think we've got to embrace it even more than just machine learning that we've done up to this point.
So Anno had brought up in the last several calls the ability of these tools to write software.
Mhm.
And that's an application that I've now had a look at, and I'd just be all over it in a heartbeat. It works
Right.
great. I think it's going to work infinitely better in 6 months. The only problem is that how do I know who owns that code?
Yeah.
I mean, it's really
Right.
I can't afford to use it if I can't own it.
Yeah, I've done the same exercise, and that was one of the ones I was going to talk to too, Jim, of, getting it to write some Arduino code, and I just sent it a simple application, and I was super shocked by it, that it came back, and then you could actually teach it to fix, there was a couple of quirks to it that I didn't quite like, and I told it to fix it, and it went back and fixed it, and it had, I'm like, wow, I would have taken me 2 days to write something like the functionality that I asked it for.
Right. Now, is that coming from the cosmic unconsciousness, or where is it coming from? And as
Right.
long as it's as long as it's uniquely generated or isn't a direct copy, I'm all good. But how do you know?
So interestingly, I'm hearing this contradiction of like, so there's nothing new going on here, but all of a sudden we're really concerned about something. It's like, if I pay a programmer to write new code, what are the odds that they actually came up with this whole new thing on their own? No, they learned it and they copied it from somebody else, but they did it inside the walls of your office while you were paying that person. So therefore you own the IP. I think the attorneys are going to figure this out. The ethics of technology deployment is nothing new. The legalities of new technology being deployed, that's what my son went to college for. So they're going to figure it out, because again, beginning of the call, we talked about how AI is nothing new. It's just doing it faster. So it's copying it faster. It's writing code faster. But the attorneys are going to have a little bit of a fun time saying, well, just because the idea happened inside of your office building walls, is that your IP? It's going to be fun to see that shake out.
So if we want to close the loop back to Mark's original question, right? So if I use ChatGPT to write some code that is of now dubious IP, which caused the elevator to plummet in a building, can I now step back and go, well, you're right, it wasn't my IP. I actually stole it from the web, so it's someone else's problem. Can I like sidestep it as a result?
Scapegoat. Yeah. That's interesting.
I don't see those issues as being new. You know, they're the same issues as we've had before. You know, it's like, oh no, that person wrote it when they were not on my time. They were on a beach somewhere writing that code. So that's not my intellectual property. It's like, it's going to be an interesting logic puzzle. But bottom line is, we're saying that this is AI is simply using a computer to do something faster.
Yeah. Which is the whole purpose of why
It might be used, I know an IP attorney here in the Richmond area, might be useful if one of us could actually get an IP attorney to join us on the call before the month's out. And then we only got one
That's a
month
good
left.
idea, Steve.
Yeah.
Because I think, as everybody has, I think, agreed to, the IP side of this is of importance and of concern, and it obviously at some point needs to be figured out, for sure.
Yeah, you know, back to your point, Tracy, I've seen the same. I've seen the counter argument to that. Because my software engineer used ChatGPT, well, you know, the way they do it today, you know, they go to GitHub or they go to, there's a plethora of online sources of snowed code snippets that they could just go and, you know, okay, here's the module that, you know, does multiplication of two numbers, great. Then there's just, you know, 90% of what they do is, you know, go to those open source solutions and use that code. Is ChatGPT just doing the same thing? But I think, to your point, also, if there's clearly something that comes across and it's got, you know, as in the comments it comes out, you know, as mentioned by Tracy Markey, you know, then okay, that's probably very clear. But
you know, and then we're already seeing a major increase in IP trolls that are just out there searching for whatever. Oh, that's mine, that's mine, that's mine. And there was a recent case in our industry that's how it started. It led to certain things. And, you know, I can just see that the trolls are running amok, you know, eventually here.
Somebody will exploit it. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
David, I see your hand is up. Let me, I've got a magic button that says allow you to talk. Let's see if that works. There you go.
Okay, thanks. Do you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Two things. I just want to, you just mentioned the University of Toronto. I was on the phone with a person who has a liver transplant because of that science at the U of T that was discovered with the U of T and the cancer hospital right next to it.
Wow.
And I was going to bring up, although Jim brought it up already, in the medical field, this has been used to scan papers around the world. I mean, they're still trying to use AI to find out where COVID started, kind of thing. When I was with the utility, it was to run a nuclear station better. And the military have been using this in many ways for their drones and their, you know, things that have to learn and correct in mid-flight. So,
yeah, that's another area that I actually picked up too on the medical side. So I read another article a few months back about that one of the greatest challenges of colonoscopy, of course, is you have to have highly trained doctors who can see, you know, as they look at your colon, they can see the polyps and interpret the difference between a benign polyp and a cancer, potentially cancerous polyp. And it takes a lot of training to get to that point. And so what they're doing at the moment is they're actually converting a lot of Indian call centers, where the call center model is starting to fall apart a little bit. So they're using the Indian call centers to do actual training. They're turning them into training centers to teach AI machines or machine learning. They feed it video and they train these guys what to look for, and then that then becomes training on the into the machine to be able to do what we call video analysis of polyps using machine learning. And so far, and what what it's allowed them to do basically is get scale. There's just not enough doctors who can interpret, colonoscopy video at scale that we really need it to do. So they're looking at, again, using machine learning AI, and then using these call centers as a training facility on how to train the machine to do that.
I'll just add another application I was thinking, because Scott had showed the photograph of an iPad where the guy's literally seeing what's happening in the motor because it's able to see that. Ontario Hydro, because of it, as the experts were retiring, they tried to get all the information, all their work orders, all the things that they did into an expert system, so that the rookie who joined, the graduate trainee, now could call on that knowledge, even if the guy's sitting in Florida on the beach, right? So that was one of the early applications of expert systems, which is ultimately taking that body of knowledge that used to be in papers and work orders and getting that readily available. And that's, we talked about AI versus ML. You have to have ML before you have AI.
Right. Applications are different. Yeah, I think, and Ken, you brought up that interesting article on copywriting, just on infringement. Sorry, on copywriting on articles. So I read a similar one again about, for a long time, colleges, especially in the English departments, they've already had the ability to input an essay or an article, or sorry, a paper by a student, and it has already, for a long time, we've had the ability to be for the professors to actually determine that someone's just scraped it from the web somewhere, and just added their own changes to it. So that technology has been around for a while, and now they're talking about taking that to the next level of actually making sure that the paper is original in the first place. Beyond, they have the ability to read paragraphs, but down to the actual sentences. Now the question becomes, well, if the sentence is short, how many variations of a particular message in a sentence can you make? With the words that we've got available, that you won't accidentally just copy what someone else has said. And what point is it? How much is it copyrighted?
On the copyright side, when's the last time you checked into a hotel? I think Hilton has this. When you log on to their Wi-Fi, you get a message that talks about copyright infringement. And if you're going online or whatever, you've got to click the box and say, you're aware of this, I won't do it, or whatever the message is. And I think you're going to start seeing more and more of that on the web to at least get some deniability. If I post something and you download it, you want to be protected that it might be a copyrighted image that I have, or an article or something. So to your point.
And then my last one that I've got from not parallel, but outside our industry, another article I read yesterday, in fact. There's some open source software available on the Discord server at the moment, which allows you to create an avatar of yourself with your voice, and to be able to interact basically with yourself. And the ability to go from raw data to a fully functional avatar using the tech has been reduced from basically weeks and months worth of work to days worth of work. So as far as you guys know, I'm just an avatar.
So can we have a Monday Live in the future where we've got avatars of our own selves here, and we're not here, we're at the beach or something, and you say something and I'm going to go, Anno, you're full of crap, or whatever.
And that's actually the premise, Mark.
Yeah,
I know. We'll have full interactive discussions with an avatar while I'm at the beach and not really care.
Yeah.
I missed last week, and I think that's where you guys kind of went through different applications throughout the stack, right? Top to bottom, I think. And this week challenge was, bring an example of its use outside our industry a little bit that might illustrate where it's going. And the one that I was immediately drawn to, back when I was in college, we did a case study like a competition. And the case study had to do with this alcohol distribution company, one of the major brands that had modeled their demand, if you will, throughout the country, and had achieved 85% of their inventory was rolling on wheels all the time, right? So they knew where to ship everything all the time. And it took 16 incredibly complicated spreadsheets that were all interlinked and intertwined. And it took in weather forecasts, because certain alcohol sells better when it's cold versus when it's hot. And it took in major sporting events and the increase in demand for sporting events. You can imagine the inputs for that, right?
Right.
Interestingly, when I Googled that for this exercise, I found several articles referring to ditch the spreadsheets. You can use AI now for doing this modeling, this demand modeling. So, you know, things that have been being done in a very manual, tedious sort of a way for a long time are going to get usurped here with this, and just chipping away at the efficiencies all through our stack in our industry, I think is where we're going to see the early adoptions for this.
You know, another industry we're talking about, the subject at hand with other industries is NASCAR, in that the simulators that the drivers practice on,
Oh,
the really, really professional ones that they practice on. You know, I'm going to Atlanta Motor Speedway. That's my next race if I'm a driver. And that's all AI driven, from AI and ML, sorry, both driven, in that, okay, we know that the last 5 years of Atlanta, there's a wreck in the last 10 laps of the race. We're going to simulate that. The AI is going to tell me that. What am I going to do? It's going to lead the driver to the right type of thing. Do I go left? Do I go high right? Whatever the case is. So
Wow.
another really, I think, a cool example of AI.
So is the future of NASCAR, Mark, just a bunch of Tesla cars driving themselves around the track? And
You know, interesting. You know, I get that question. Will NASCAR ever go 100% electric? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. But anyway, that's what I say. But I've been wrong.
Only if they want faster, higher performing cars. I
Yeah.
mean, otherwise, why do it, right?
Right.
I'll leave you with the one last one on to your point about that data analysis and using AI. So the one that I was always fascinated with, you know what? Walmart did a research on the most popular food item that people want to buy right after a tornado has been through your town. You know what it is?
I remember this one. It was like
Strawberry Pop-Tart.
Pop-Tarts. Yeah.
Strawberry Pop-Tarts.
Strawberry, but it's got to be strawberry.
Specifically, yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
Which has caused Walmart to say, and they did that, and the article was about, they did that as through a lot of tedious research and data analysis and all that sort of stuff. And they're like, well, can we use AI now to do, you know, a better, quicker, faster, you know, what do people need?
Here, that is a perfect example, Anno, of the power of what we're talking about. So 2 completely disparate data sets. They know how many strawberry Pop-Tarts they sell and where, and then there's weather.
Right.
Now you know, mash those 2 together and start looking for trends in that and consistencies throughout that pattern recognition piece of it. And it's instantaneous all of a sudden, something that it took somebody who worked at Walmart for 20 years to figure out, probably, right? This
Right.
thing.
Exactly. It's now can do it a lot faster and using machine learning type techs. We are past the hour. I'm
just
sorry.
a real quick, just another Hollywood TV show beside War Games. If you haven't watched Billions, watch that. They do a lot of AI stuff in that. It's frightening. But anyway, there you go.
I'm going to thank everybody. I will be back as Anto again one more time for next week. So as long as this worked, I'm sure you'll come back. I appreciate everyone's time.
Thank you, Anno.
Thanks, Anno.
Cheers,
Thanks,
guys.
Adam.
Good first
Cheers.
outing.
Good.